R129 versus R107. Which car is the better car? I did not want to make this video, but I've been under a lot of pressure lately to crank something out, and so we're going to talk about more apples versus more oranges, and we're going to talk about the R129 versus the R107, which I know that many of you just can't wait to see this thing, and you're just rapidly clicking on your browser trying to get access to it. So there's a guy that I know named Mitch who has a shop up near Elkhart Grove, Illinois. We were talking one night. He swears that the R129 is a better car than the 107. And yeah, it does some things better. It handles better. It is faster. It's more fuel efficient. You know, it's more aerodynamic. Great. Oh, and it has a V12. Those all sound like huge pros, don't they? Meanwhile, you have the R107, which is built out of a solid block of corrodable steel, guzzles gas, didn't come with the most exciting engines for the United States until we got the 560, and also can be quite expensive to purchase if you find a really nice one. So where is the case for the R107 versus the R129? Well, I've got it. Here we go down the rabbit hole. We're going to compare the R107 and the R129 in a few short steps. The first step is analogness, because that matters. Why does it matter? Well, you try playing around with the control unit. The R107s tend to score pretty high on the analog scale. The 1976 to 1985 model year cars score the highest. And the 1986 to 89 560 SL still scores pretty high. Think about it. I have a YouTube subscriber who has a 250 SL and a 560 SL, and when he got his 560 SL, the KE control unit was totally inoperative, and he didn't even know it. 28,000 mile car. Somebody put the wrong unit, but the car still ran, drove, accelerated, idled pretty well. So that's pretty awesome. And if you have a Euro car, a 76 to 79 450 SL, it is totally a mechanical system. Great. Now the early 107 with D-Jetronic does okay, but if the computer's having an issue, then maybe not so good. But again, they rarely have issues. Now, where do I score the R129? Well, the 90 to 92 cars do pretty good too, because they have KE Jetronic. They score about where a 560 does, even though their ignition systems are more complicated and temperamental. After that, the R129 falls off the face of the analog cliff, being totally computer dependent after 93. That means if your wiring harness cooks your control unit, you're in a lot of trouble. Now, if you're not worried about this, or you don't care, or you say, I'll deal with it if it happens, but for now I'm just going to enjoy the car, great. If you want a very low responsibility car that goes fast, maybe doesn't have the high precious metal content that an R107 does, I think an R129 might be a good fit for you, especially if you want lower responsibility ownership. But there's an area where the 107 really outperforms the 129 as well, and that is, in my opinion, design. Actually, it's not just my opinion. It's the kind of compliment the car gets. When I service infrequently an early 129 and take the car out or whatever, I don't get spoken to by anybody on the road or in a drive-through, although you'll rarely find me in a drive-through, or at Publix or wherever I go. There aren't many places I go. But when you take a 107 out, everybody's like, hey, It's a really nice car. Hey, what year is that? Wow, that's a sharp looking car. Even the most boring 1981 380 SL silver with the gray MB-Tex interior still gets a lot of compliments. Why is that? Well, it's because the 107 stuck around so long it became an icon. And Mercedes did succeed in replacing it with a faster, more efficient car. But unfortunately, that era of beautiful, sexy Mercedes design that, began at the dawn of automotive history and ended, don't argue with me, with the 126, the 124 coupe, particularly the last ones, the W46, the early 463 Galinda wagon before they became Barbie mobiles, Barbie Jeeps, in the late 90s and early 2000s. These cars really get people's attention. Just ask the public. Even the big bumper cars, really do it for me. Now, on the other hand, you could say that the R129 looks like more of an aggressive sports car. And if you are into the AMG look, the forward design look, the aero look, it still is a good looking car. What do I personally think of the R129? I think it is actually a very attractive car, particularly AMG versions. I do like the way it looks. I do like the way it goes. But if I want dependability and a great looking car, the R107 does score pretty high. So is the R107 worth the premium of the R129? Particularly, I hear when it comes to the purchase of a really good example. Well, I think it is, just because it's nice to have a car where you don't have to track down electronic issue after electronic issue with an SDS system. Even the early R129 needs it. Now, is there a way that I think the R129 could have been better? Yeah, it would have been nice if the power top was an option. I would have preferred a manual top. I would have preferred a Euro-style manual climate control. I would have preferred, a smaller V8, maybe like a 4-liter V8 instead of a 5-liter V8. You either have the 3-liter M104 or the 5-liter V8. It would have been nice to get a smaller V8 that didn't quite feel so heavy. Maybe not so many features, maybe a more basic R129. If that had been the case, even in the first 3 years, I would have been all over it. Would have loved it. I'd probably be the owner of like 3 or 4 of them. So I want you guys to understand that the R129's design and engines are not necessarily what hurt it for me. It's the power top, the climate control, and some of the other vastly more complicated electronics, such as the gazillion pin EZL that costs a fortune, or water getting under the distributor caps, other weird issues that the 107 just never had. The 107, in terms of reliability, as long as you deal with the timing chain and the fuel accumulator and make sure you're not leaking gas if you have a D-jet car, it's a pretty predictable car. The R129 can have some very expensive items to repair. Think of it this way: water pumps, blower motors, power top repairs. Alone, they may not be that expensive, but together they can all add up, and that's typically what happens. The prospect of putting $8,000 to $15,000 into a car that is not appreciating as fast, particularly if it has over 100,000 miles on it, may not be as appealing, so people just keep passing the buck with repair bills until you get to Joe Biden, where the buck stops. I wonder if Joe would like an R129. Might be a good fit for him. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like the R129, that's great. I'm glad you found a Mercedes you like. But I'm an R107 guy, and I have a feeling that a lot of my subscribers really like the R107 too, for the reasons I mentioned. I hope you like, share, and subscribe, and please be patient with this, as I'm having a hard time getting to comments before November 10th. I'm available via email or phone call, and I will get back to you at some point. Thank you guys so much, and enjoy driving your classic Mercedes.